It's now my distinct honor to introduce this year's keynote speaker, Dr. Sandra Bond Chapman. Dr. Chapman will be speaking to you all tonight along with Corporal Jake Schick, a retired United States Marine. Jake has worked closely with Dr. Chapman at the Center for Brain Health since his return from Iraq, and he will speak to you all tonight about his powerful impact it has made on his life. So now, without further ado, please help me to give a warm welcome to Corporal Jake Schick.
Good evening, good evening. Thank you for having me. Before I even start my little spiel, we've already recognized the veterans in the room. And so, yep, you're getting there. Hush, hush. I'd like to recognize the family members of warriors in the room. If you'd please stand up. If just you have a family member in the military or was in the military, stand up. I'd like to recognize you. Thank you for your sacrifice, because you're every bit as a warrior as me or my brothers and sisters in arms, and thank you. I was fortunate enough to be part of a family that had two great men in it, Corporal Jack Schick and Corporal Jack Schick Jr. One served on Iwo Jima, one served in Vietnam. I started hearing stories from my grandmother at the age of 8 about my grandfather and about how much of a warrior he truly was and how much he loved this nation. So at a young age, I was pretty much indoctrinated and knew that I wanted to do the same thing. I wanted to carry the title of United States Marine, so I did. I could have gone, played football at a small college, done the college thing, but it just wasn't up to me. It didn't interest me. I needed something more. So I joined the Marines, beginning my senior year, didn't tell anybody, and especially my father. And I remember when I joined, he was at my graduation ceremony, and he said, proud of you, son, you know, we got some meetings to go to, and up walked Staff Sergeant Norberg in his dress blues, and my dad turned around and said, Dad, meet Staff Sergeant Norberg. And my dad looked at me and said, why would you do that? And I said, well, Jason's not going to do it, so I figured it was up to me. That's my older brother. So I decided to carry on the legacy, and that I did. Became an 0311 rifleman, cross-trained 0331 machine gunner, and because with my legacy, I knew I had to be a fighting guy. Wouldn't hear the end of it from Uncle Jack there in Oklahoma. But I did. My unit deployed in 2004. And I unfortunately ended up having a long day at the office in Dulab, Iraq, in the Sunni Triangle. And I got hit on a REACT mission, and I got hit by a triple sack tank mine that was 3 155 millimeter mortar rounds, pressure plate ignited. And as soon as my tire hit it, blew up underneath me, blew me 30 feet out of the vehicle, landed on my head. My gunny always tells me if I'd have landed any other way, I would have died immediately. And I have to admit, there's some truth to that. But I never lost consciousness. I never went into shock. I remember everything. That was a long 42 minutes. But it was something I'm thankful for, because it gives me a way to look at everyday life a little bit differently than everyone else. And whether it be good or bad or indifferent, well, that's your opinion. I have my own. I went through a pretty hard recovery just like any other wounded guy or girl. Spent 18 months thereabouts in or by the hospital. I've had 46 operations, 23 blood transfusions, lost my right leg, 5 inches on my left arm, part of my left hand, and mangled my left leg. And so my dreams of being a glove and shoe model have been crushed. Thank you, Al-Qaeda. But that said, my physical injuries are pretty much the reason I'm up here. You know, I mean, I'm missing a leg, and I've got, if I'm in shorts and t-shirt, you know I was wounded. I guess I have somewhat of a decent story. But really, when it comes down to it, the injuries that were 6 inches in between my ears were the most severe. And they didn't get any attention because, one, I wouldn't allow it, and two, my physical wounds were so bad that they needed attention. I mean, I almost lost my left leg and left arm, and had to do a lot of limb salvage surgeries and fighting infection surgeries. And finally, when I got out and medically retired in 2007, luckily I was fortunate enough to marry one of my interns from Bethesda, who was a lieutenant in the Navy. That's a long story. But needless to say, she's much smarter than I am. And you know, she pushed me to make myself mentally well. Because I was where I was physically, but I wasn't there mentally. And finally, after enough push, I got there mentally. Because a good friend of mine, who's a Navy SEAL from SEAL Team 5, said, "Jake, you need to go get your brain scrubbed." That's exactly his words. And I said, "Well, you know, Clint, there's nothing wrong with my brain, so I don't need to do anything like that." And he knew otherwise. I knew otherwise. But he stayed on me and stayed on me. And finally I did it. And I showed up begrudgingly. Did not want to be there. Apparently it was abundantly obvious that I did not want to be where I was at the Center for Brain Health. But I went, and I did it. And Dr. Chapman was talking about going through some slides. Finally hit a slide that said a big majority, I don't remember the percentage, it was a large percentage, of participants have, as a result, received a drastic reduction in depressive symptoms. And I thought, well, dang, maybe I need to pay attention to this. Because at this point, I'm now a husband, I'm a father. And I thought, all right, I need to dig in. So I dug in. And by Wednesday, I didn't want to friggin' leave the place. And I went through this high-performance brain training. By Friday, obviously, I was in love. It was the one thing I've done out of all the operations I've had and all the people I've talked to and all the places I've been that was tangible, that made me the mechanic and the driver of my own brain, that made me not have to be a prisoner in my own mind anymore. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. And I'm lucky enough to be a part of the Center for Brain Health and the Brain Performance Institute. And as a wounded guy, I get called hero a lot. Now, I hear that phrase thrown around quite a bit. Hero. Oh, you're a hero. Thank you for your service. No, I'm not a hero. I had a bad day at the office. That's what that is. I got hurt doing what I promised you I would do. That doesn't make me a hero. That said, we are amongst some heroes here today. Some of my heroes. Pretty much everyone at table 53. Just go ahead and stand up. Are my heroes. And I would bleed for any one of those individuals on any given day without hesitation. You know, I'm fortunate to know another hero that I'm not going to go into at all start crying is my wife, Laura, my biggest hero. But another one of my heroes is pretty tiny and soft-spoken, but she's brilliant. And she's made me a better husband and a better daddy because of her dedication to men and women like me. And she's a true ambassador of the 3 L's: leadership, loyalty, and love. She leads from the front. She's loyal to you because she knows that you'll give her everything you got. And no matter what the outcome, she'll love you through it. And so it's my honor and privilege to introduce my boss, my friend, my hero, Dr. Sandy Chapman.
Wow. Does his story blow you away? Just, Jake. I want to thank Carol Mason. When we've sat down to talk about this, her incredible vision impressed me that she wanted to take a message to you to make a difference in lives. And I think hearing Jake Schick, you understand what her heartbeat was to make a difference tonight. So each of you here, I know, will go home inspired more by the message and the people that you hear from. Jake was injured 10 years ago. He suffered 2 years in the hospital, and it took him almost 8 years to be a productive life, to come back and find this brilliant, articulate genius that he is to inspire us. That's why we're here today to talk about how can we empower our military, our warriors, our veterans, to become what is in their DNA. I think you're going to feel it throughout this whole part of it. You know, when we hear the stories like Jake's, our immediate reaction is for our heart to break. You know, we heard the story of Miles. And our heart aches for that, the devastation of war, what it's done to families, what it's done to individuals. And yet, what if the most significant challenge they face is us? You and me. They don't need our pity. They need us to take advantage of this amazing strategic mind to empower them. They don't want to hand up. They don't want to be enabled. They want to become the citizens they were. They are. For 25 years, I've been doing research in the human mind, and each of you in this room, I hope you realize what's between your ears is the most amazing gift that anyone could be given. We are able to show brain regeneration, brain resilience, brain repair, brain strengthening in health, injury, and disease. We have made so many advances in the last 2 years, and yet, what if we couldn't get what we know works out to the majority of our 2.5 million veterans that are coming back today? I want each of you to help us reach them through not only your gifts, but the opportunities that you bring through your companies, through your corporations. So, you know what's interesting to me is I've met so many military warriors, active duty. We're working with Marines, Army, and I have to say that because General Baxter's here, right? We've got the Army, the Navy, the Marines. You know, the way our society has thought about what smart is wrong. And why do I say that? One thing that we look at is when you interview someone, what degree do you have? As if that defines who's smart. When you meet these young men, many of them joined because maybe they didn't like school. Maybe they didn't get a degree. And yet we judge them based on that. Just last week, one of our Marines who went through everything, was a hero. He's gone to Cambodia to help the orphans, and he came back and got his degree, had a 3.9 average. He went for his first interview, all decked out, dressed with a tie. The second question was, do you have an MBA? And he said, no, it's in my resume. Well, we can't hire you then. I said, you've got to be kidding. This young man is one of the most strategic thinkers to solve problems. He made a 3.9 in business, and you're not going to give him an opportunity. A degree does not predict who's smart. Another myth that we hold is that whatever grades you make in school is going to define who you are, wherever you are. One of the Navy SEALs that's going to join our team in April came through our brain performance training team almost a year ago. He'd had 75 concussions. He'd been all over the country, and no one had been able to help him. After he went through the brain performance training like Jake did, he said, I don't know what you've done to me, but for the first time, I realize how smart I am. I wish I'd done better in school because I was a C/D student at best. I wish I could go back to school to do for my men what you've done for me. And I said, you're kidding me. You're going to let your grades from 10 years ago define your potential? That's crazy. And he said, well, can you get me in? So guess what? He graduated at the top of his class in officer training school. This young man is so strategic, so he's going to start our doctorate program in cognitive neuroscience starting in September. Think about the detrimental effects. Many individuals are afraid to hire our veterans because of what you see on the front page. Post-traumatic stress, what's going to happen? I'm afraid. Or traumatic brain injury, what does that mean? And I look at Mike, Keyshawn, that's at our table, who went through so much suffering, and yet they are the most powerful, productive individuals. If you want peace and a team builder, this is what they bring to the table. Executive training. So at the Center for Brain Health, we know what drives brain health and we know what derails it. So why should you hire military individuals? Because there is no limitations. Think about it. What they have been trained to do, they hit the ground, they're told maybe one step, and they figure out the next 9 steps all on their own. Why wouldn't you hire a veteran to join your ranks? Let me just share with you why you want to. These are peak performers under the most strenuous conditions. When Jake shared his story, I remember last year at Carry the Load, I saw this young man walking with his one good leg, barely good leg, swollen, bigger than my body. And I said, Jake, please. He said, for my men, I am a peak performer no matter what the pain. You will not get a more dedicated group of men. They serve a greater purpose than themselves. Matthew and Mike that I've already mentioned, and Caleb, when you're in a room with them, you know that what your concerns are not nearly as big as what they're going to do for greater good. You know, one of the things that's most striking to me is when I meet them is, you know, we think that they want to be disabled. It's the last thing they want, to be given a check. They want to be empowered. They would not want to be labeled. They don't want a check. They don't want to be disabled. I know that Kimber Hartman that's here, she was a lawyer and a partner in her law firm. and she heard two of our military guys come to speak after they'd been through the high-performance brain training. One was getting ready to be put on full disability. He had been through NICO, the National Intrepid Center of Excellence. He had been all over, and they said, you're going to be 100% disabled. And he tore up that paper, he put it back on the desk, and he said, you have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars training me. I am not going to be disabled. I want you to make me well. And we did. And so Kimber quit her job and joined us to make a difference, which when you come to the center, I hope everyone in this room will join us to make a difference, because they have high-performance role models. They understand the benefit of training. General Baxter is helping us to bring this. They're problem solvers. Eric Bennett, who wasn't able to be here tonight, has joined as the executive director of our Brain Performance Institute, because we've made so many brain discoveries. We realized it's like having the West Nile virus and not being able to get it out. So we want everyone to be able to take advantage of this. Our 2.5 million veterans. Eric said, I can now say with the utmost confidence that because of their military experience, warriors are among the finest employees I've ever had. They're team players, dedicated professionals, produce a great work ethic, are adaptable, and they're tenacious. Who wouldn't want that kind of worker? He started a money management firm, which is the largest in Texas. Guess what? He quit his job. He said, I gave up profits to have a purpose, because he was working with these young men and the hundreds of thousands of men that we can help. If you have two applications in front of you, I want to ask you, one that's served in the military and one that hasn't. I want you to give fuller consideration for these individuals that have served. You will be so glad you did, because they will make the best opportunities. How can we empower them? How can we empower their whole families? And I love it that Jake recognized the families tonight, because everyone in this room, I don't want you to feel sorry when you hear the stories. I want you to make an opportunity. I want you to build a life. And right now, I want you to meet Dr. Laura Schick, who is the wife of Jake Schick, so you can hear from her story.
I'd like to start off by saying my husband is the public speaker in the family, not me. Therefore, knowing I would be asked to make some comments tonight about how Dr. Chapman's training has helped my husband, I prepared my heartfelt thoughts on paper beforehand, and I'd like to share them with you tonight. Being in the medical field, perhaps I should have known better what to expect as far as post-traumatic stress disorder and the symptoms that so commonly correlate to this. However, learning about this disorder from a textbook and living through it, watching your loved one suffer on a daily basis, are two different things, I assure you. Jacob first started displaying regular and consistent symptoms of PTSD, especially anger, a very short temper, depression, desire for isolation, and irritability about 1 year after injury, which was about 1 year after we met. Jacob could also be the most kind-hearted, loving, fun, outgoing guy during those dark times intermittently. That is what kept me hanging on. The good times were fantastic, but the dark times were very difficult to live through. But I knew that if he could get help for his depression and PTSD, Life could get so much better with him, since I knew underlying the demons that lived in him was this fabulous man that I love so dearly. My faith kept me strong, and I prayed and prayed that Jacob would find the peace within himself in order to break free of the anger and depression. Over the years, the anger, depression, irritability did lessen to an extent, but always seemed to rear its ugly head just when I thought things were going so well. I would plead at times for him to trial an antidepressant medication to help matters, or maybe seek counseling, neither of which he wanted to do. Considering he prided himself on the fact that he was off all medications, and as far as the counseling, he always thought that no one could possibly understand what I've been through, so how would anyone be able to help me? It was finally in October of 2012 that an opportunity to do the SMART training at the Center for Brain Health arose, and, as he mentioned already, begrudgingly took it, mainly to appease his friend who helped to set it up. I prayed that this was perhaps the crossroads for him to learn to fiercely battle his PTSD once and for all. I was optimistic and hopeful, but guarded at the same time. I didn't want to be let down. Well, I can honestly say I had not seen him happy about doing something like I had seen him the days he was involved with the SMART training. And since that training, Jacob has had little to no outbursts of anger, has not exemplified signs of depression like he used to, and has been far less irritable. It has been the biggest blessing to have touched our lives. Dr. Chapman's SMART program, in essence, has saved my husband's life as well as saved our family, as I know it has so many other great warriors like my husband. Thank you all very much for your attention tonight. God bless you, and thank you for all that you do.
That was the first time. Thank you for celebrating this moment with us, to know what we're able to bring the joy and what your support has done. This is the first time Laura has been able to share this message, and she said, I don't know if I can. Wasn't she just so amazing? Thank you. So amazing. So I just reiterate her word. Help us hire the vets, but help us get their brains ready. Do everything you can. I hope not a single person in here will not say, I am going to make a place. I want the most strategic thinker on my team, and I know it's going to be a veteran. Let's hire them. Send them to us. We will work with you. They are the most amazing individuals. And do not let this opportunity for us to build the next greatest generation. Thank you.